How could a benevolent God and Creator allow such things to happen to humanity, to humans? You look at the natural disasters that take place, and you're left with one startling truth. If God created this world, then God is morally responsible for all the tragedy that happens. And then it dawned on me. The first radical proposition. It hit me like a thunderbolt. God did not make this world. God did not make the cosmos. Staggering proposition. I walked around for a long time with that proposition in my head. I still believed in God. Now I believe something radical about God. That God didn't make the world I lived on because of this idea of moral responsibility. You know. So then I began to question, what is the nature of God? If God didn't make this world or the universe, why? Why didn't God make this world or the universe that I see in the night sky? You know, a lot of truths can be discovered without the aid of anything artificial. All you need is the disciplined intellect to search out the answer. And I had a very disciplined intellect. And so I came to that second radical proposition. I began to look at existence itself. And then the second radical proposition struck me. It rattled me to my core. In order for God to exist, God must have a beginning. Pure and simple. Why didn't God make this world? Why didn't God make the universe? Because at the time of their creation, God simply did not exist. Radical proposition. In support of that radical proposition, you cannot point to anything, either in the macrocosm or the microcosm, down to the subatomic particle. You cannot point to anything and say, this has always been as it is now. Anything that exists now only exists now because it had its beginning. It evolved. Radical proposition. God evolved. God exists and is real only because Charles Darwin was right. I don't care what religion says about that man. I still believe Charles Darwin is probably the greatest scientific mind who ever existed on this planet. And I'm not taking anything away from Einstein or Michael Faraday. I'm not taking anything away from Fermi or any of these other great physicists. But in my mind, I still believe Charles Darwin was the greatest single brilliant man who dared to ask hard questions. And he is still unpopular. Now that's a sure, clear evidence to me about how brainy he is. 160 years after his death, people are still fighting over him. I think it's a silly fight, but... So now I had two radical propositions. One, God did not make this world or the universe. Two, in order for God to exist, in order for God to be real, God had to have a beginning. Wow. That was interesting to me. But that brings up another question. Where did God have his beginning? At what point? At what place? What was God's species? Where did God evolve? I need a world in evidence.